Oh, friends, this is Janine,
Mm.
and I am so excited to be here with her. And I'm Shannon. If you're joining from Janine's platform, you won't know me, but I'm
This is Shannon Clarke.
and we are the duo who is co-facilitating a 4-week journey on finding joy in the ordinary. And so we've been talking for the last several hours. It feels like hours, but it's only been, 40 minutes just about life. And so we thought we would invite you into our own thoughts on joy and kind of the magic that we are hoping to create in the space we have together inside of our group. And we were talking about kind of where it's just some stories. I love to tell stories, and I kind of imagine like when we get together around the fire
Mhm.
of of this group, that we're kind of all going to sit together and just sort of explore the topics of joy. And Janine has her own gifts that she's going to be bringing, and I have my gifts that I'm going to be bringing. But truly, everyone who chooses to come and join the group will get a chance to share their own gifts if they wish. But the gift that I know I want to share right now is a bit of a story about how finding joy came to be. Janine's already heard the story, but she gets to hear
But
a
I love your stories.
bit. So, my mom recently passed away. My mom has always been kind of a magical creature. This I used to say she has the ability to paint rainbows over everything, and this was a beautiful, beautiful gift that she had. And there was a time where I felt like, she can paint rainbows over even really crappy situations like her own death. Like, oh, it's just darn, like that seems insufficient. But that's what she said when she told us that there wasn't anything else that could happen to help her cancer. But as I spent those last days with her, and as we said goodbye, and as we went to her home, and we're kind of immersing ourselves in her nest of her curated collection of things, it was so obvious that this ability, her capacity to paint rainbows inside of rainy days, was so intentional and served her so beautifully, and has like sparkled into my life in ways that I didn't even know was happening. But so one of the things that I found as I was sort of cleaning out her bedside table and sort of tidying it up were these little moments of gratitude, of sunshine on a day, or a bird at her bird feeder. She loved the birds at her bird feeder, just watching birds, knowing their songs, seeing her garden grow. These were little moments she chose to write down and tuck inside her drawer and keep there for quite a long time because they were pretty dusty. And, yeah, underneath that was a piece of paper where she had written down, what do I want to cultivate? Who do I want to be in my life? And she just had written the words like joy, 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 like word after word after word. And it was from, quite a long time ago. And I could see in her life that she had created this very clear representation of joy and how much that mattered to everyone. One of the privileges of getting to sit with her inside of knowing that her time was coming to an end was that everybody kept calling her to tell her what she'd meant to them.
Mm.
And to get to listen to that, as people were sharing that with her, and the impact that she had on their lives, was so beautiful. And it really emphasized for me that what we do in our lives doesn't matter. Like, my job doesn't really matter. The number of degrees I have doesn't matter. My accomplishments don't really matter. People at the end of my life, I hope, will say how I showed up in my life mattered, how I cared about them mattered, how I chose to be in my life is what I think a life is really all about. And so, especially inside of this time where we can look back on it and feel so angry about COVID and the pandemic and the difficulties and the suffering that so many people are facing and all the layers of challenges that there are going on in the world. And we can also still hold in ourselves this hope for wanting to be a version of us that when we look back and when someone's reflecting back at the end of my life to me, when they're reflecting back my life to me, how I choose to live each day is what I hope they reflect back to me. And so, this has kind of spurred this idea of wanting to connect with people at a soul level. And my soul and Janine's soul somehow have found one another. and and so here we are. Anyway, this poem, Janine and I have a love of poetry. So if you join our group, then you'll get to hear some of our beloved words, either that come through Janine and her magical channel of beautiful word weaving or words we know. But here's one poem that was taped up in my mom's office, and it was just taped up as though it didn't matter at all, just there. But when you read the poem, you'll know exactly what I know. Tell me what you think when you hear this poem, Janine. It's, of course, a Mary Oliver, who we love. And it's called Mindful. Every day I see or I hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It is what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside of this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab. The daily presentations, O good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass.
I love it. It's so beautiful. I love everything that you just said. You just keep talking. You appreciate the way that I weave words because you do the very same. So thank you so much for everything you said, and that story about your mom. Like, I've heard it. I've heard it a couple times, and it moves me. I just feel, like we were talking before about how we've been guided to each other. And it's so fun. I look at you and I'm just like, oh, I love this woman. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I know.
We've never met in person, but I just know, my whole body knows that we were meant to meet. And I love that we get to do this together. So I can't wait. And I just feel like anybody who joins this group, I suspect we will feel the same way with them. So thank you for inviting me to join you. And I shared with Shannon yesterday that when I was pregnant with my daughter, I'd recently gone through a burnout and I was off of work, and I went to see, just before leaving work, I went to see a counselor, and she was she just radiated light, this woman. She was a yoga teacher. And I only met with her, I think, about 4 times. And I believe it was the second time I went to see her, maybe the first. I mean, every time there's just tears. I'm so emotional and such a good release. And I said something to her, oh, you're a yoga teacher. And then I said, can you guide me through a meditation? Like, I've never done it. Like, can you do that? She's like, yeah, close your eyes. So that's the first time that I recall being guided in meditation. And it impacted me to the point that I decided, pretty much on a whim, after only having been to about 4 yoga classes in my life, that my next step was to become a yoga teacher. And so then throughout my whole pregnancy, I was doing my yoga teacher training. And I was telling Shannon, I told you yesterday that the whole time I was doing my teacher training, I wore a necklace
Mm.
and it had the word joy on it. And it was such a gorgeous experience, the whole thing. It was so spiritual for me and so healing, and to be in such a small circle with other women. And I felt so loved. Felt so loved. And I get emotional just telling the story. But at the end of it, yeah, I mean, throughout the whole thing, I thought, oh, maybe I'll name my daughter Joy. And they talked about, oh, your daughter will be so beautiful, and yes, she'll be so joyful. And then she was born, and she was Joy, and we could have named her Joy. But I realized that that whole path, this whole life was an opening, an invitation into joy itself for me. It was my path to joy. It wasn't about my daughter, that necklace. It was about me. So it was a really beautiful experience. And I just feel like, oh, I told Shannon yesterday that I did a search for notes on my phone containing the word joy, because I'm always putting down affirmations and poetry and ramblings, and 34 notes contained the word joy. So
Amazing.
it's a joy to be here,
It
sister.
is. Ah, it is a joy to be here. I was thinking about joy this morning and last night. And I was thinking about, I use the word joy and use the word joy. You use the word joy. So many people use the word joy, and I don't even really know what it means, really. And you know, I I I know how I feel when
Mm,
I'm in joy, but
yeah.
how I feel when I'm in joy is probably different than how you feel when you're in joy.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
I'm so curious to explore that, even that idea with the people in our group, because I think that there is this possibility that we say the word joy and it means something different to different people.
mhm. What is, like, if you could go there right now, like I can certainly kind of sink into that. And
Hmm.
for me, joy is, it is this, like, this rawness. It's like a deepening almost. Um, but it's a wild, and it's like a free, and it's a exhilaration, and but it's
That,
also quiet, right?
yeah, yeah. For me, joy is like embodying all the cells in my body.
Mm,
I was listening to music the other day, and like my skin was shivering with the beautiful sounds of the music, and like coming upon something that I was not expecting when I'm on a walk in the woods, and I just see it, and it's like it just feels like it takes my breath away. I have that same reaction when I see the mountains every time. Every time I see the mountains, it's like this humbling almost.
mm.
Joy, I think, can be so humbling, but it can also be so playful and silly. We were reading knock knock jokes last night, my son and I. I can't get enough of knock knock jokes, like kids ones. They bring me such joy. I do not know why, but they do.
Oh,
Physical comedy, like someone slipping on
yes.
a banana peel. It
Oh,
it is very funny. Oof, the sun is coming in here, which I normally love, but it's kind of making me look silly. But
yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, joy can look so different and can encompass so many different things. But I think what's so beautiful about this possibility is that there is space for everyone to find joy in whatever it looks like for each person. It's never going to be the same, what I find to help me deepen into joy as you describe.
Mhm. I think sometimes I come across as someone who would spiritually bypass. And, if somebody's just joining on right now and catching this part of it, they're probably like, who are these women? Everything is rainbows and sunshine. And I think it's important. And I know I've seen in your posts that you've reinforced that um, this isn't about putting on like a rose colored glasses, but in a way, when you change your perspective, you are intentionally, you're making the choice that amidst whatever you're experiencing, you will put on a lens that will allow you to, yes, feel it and honor it, and then shift to joy. is
Yeah.
how I is how I see it. And I mean, I'm not always happy. You and I were just having a really good conversation about how there have been some like heavier days, right? So
I was on the grump train this weekend.
we were both on the grump train.
The I think that for me, so where this became really embedded in my understanding of what is possible, this what you just talked about in terms of choosing a perspective, choosing to see something, choosing to shift our perspectives away from something that might be causing us to feel negative, right? I was I'm in the I'm an army spouse. My husband's in the army and we move a lot. We've moved something like 6 times in 5 years or something crazy, like a lot. And we're moving back to Ottawa this summer. And we're in Edmonton again here, but the first time we moved to Edmonton was such a shock. I'd never lived in this part of the world before. I'd never lived this far north. And you don't think of Edmonton as north, but I think it is the most northern large city in our country, which means in the winter it gets very dark and very cold. And um, Dan was away because he was going to the field for training, and then he got deployed to Afghanistan. And I wasn't finding I was really fulfilled in my job, and I missed my family and the lakes and the trees and everything about home. I just missed home a lot. And I've just really hated Edmonton. Like I really could only see the things that I didn't like about it and the things that I was comparing, my life in Edmonton to my life back home, and just feeling distinctly dissatisfied with my life here. And Dan came home, and my best friend who was living in Ottawa was living in Alberta too. And so she was here, and we were going to go cross country skiing, and it's my favorite winter sport. And it was the most beautiful day. So this is now 2 years almost into being in Edmonton. I'm still hating it hardcore intentionally. Like I was actually actively participating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful day, and I was whining to her about something like, oh, it wasn't Gatineau Park, it wasn't Ottawa, it wasn't, so cold still. And she said, Shannon, did you ever think that maybe it was you that's the problem and not Edmonton? And I was like, that's a bit severe. But afterwards I was thinking, maybe there's something to that. What if I try a different way? Because this isn't really helping me. Like I'm on a grump train. I've been on the grump train for 2 years.
Been on this train.
It wasn't very pleasant. And so, what if I try to see the good? So I just started with 1 minute of every day that I'm going to try to love 1 minute of every day. And to keep myself accountable, I started a blog about it. I started Love This Minute. And I just loved things like the latte that I had that day, or the amazing food that there is here in Edmonton, like amazing food, all these beautiful public works of art. When I started to look for the good in every day, all of a sudden my days were good. Everything about my whole life changed. My whole world, my whole reality changed because I put on a different lens to look through the world. And so I do know this to be true for my own experience. I've gone through it, but it's also supported with tons of literature. Like we get to choose how we see the world. And that doesn't mean
Wayne Dyer is like, yeah, Shannon. I told you when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I told you.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that we can't still live inside of really difficult circumstances and honor ourselves inside of those. Honor that living inside of a pandemic is really difficult. Honor the loss of seeing our families or the loss of lives. Like I've lost my mom, and so many of us have had experienced loss over this last year. We can hold ourselves whole inside of those difficult emotions, and also turn towards other ways of being if we want to. And so that's sort of the other part of why this really matters to me here.
I love it. I love it all. we talked about me possibly sharing a poem, and I had said to Shannon, I don't know what poem to
Yeah.
share. Um, but there is one that I have that's called Banters in the Dark. And,
Ooh,
and I think I'll share that just because it builds on what you just said.
closing my
And
blinds, it's blinding me.
and I know, I did a little story yesterday talking about how much I'm looking forward to this. And anyway, I'll just share this. It's very short. If you want to close your eyes or. When darkness rears its ugly head, dive deeper, darker. Explore instead of running away or numbing the hurt. Be still. Feel your way through the corners you wish to skirt. The hollow, it carries wisdom and answers, has direction to share, not through screams, but quiet banters. Be lured by its mystery when you're driven to hide. Tune in, open further. There is beauty inside. That's just a short little one. Banters in the Dark.
I have the shivers. Did you write that?
I did, yeah.
Janine,
Hmm.
beautiful. Thank you for that beautiful gift. Oh,
Thank you, honey.
ah,
There is beauty. I mean, and case in point, like you just lost your mom. You just lost your mom, and look at you, tuning in, opening further, and finding all of this beauty inside. And now you just want to give it and share it.
yeah.
I just think it's incredible. So
I think I didn't know that you'd experienced burnout in work. I didn't know that. And I too have experienced burnout and needed to stop and pivot to a different way of being. And I do think that a lot of people can relate to feeling burned out right now. And to be able to sit in a space here, the two of us, and have come out the other side to say it is possible to thrive again. It is possible to feel joy. It is, we hold you. I feel like
oh yeah.
we hold you inside of knowing how hard that can be and in how much possibility there is. So anyway, I'm excited. This 4 weeks is going to be like a warm bath for our souls.
It's
Fire
funny
for our minds.
you use that analogy because I've used that exact analogy to describe how it feels to be like in circle with people who you connect with on this soul level.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bath. It's like coming home. It's this warm bath. So
Yeah.
I'm like selfishly, I'm just so excited to have a bath with you. My, what are they doing?
I'll be wearing my bathing suit. But yes, bathe our souls in this kind of deep and meaningful conversation is what I'm really hoping. And I think what will naturally happen because of who we have to be. So
I'm so happy. I'm so excited. And thank you just for this time today. Like you've lifted me. Like I needed this time with you. I think we need to schedule a little, 30 to 3 hour call every day.
Well, let's start with Thursday nights, shall we? Starting this week.
That sounds good. So what's the date? What are the date?
The date. So we start March 25th. And so that's Thursday night this week. And we go from 6:30 to 8 p.m. my time, which is mountain time, which is 8:30 to 10 their time.
My time.
Yeah, Eastern time. And so we have 4 Thursdays together. And in between, we get to connect on the Book of Faces. But it's kind of nice because that space we can use to ask questions, to reflect. I have in my mind's eye this collection of resources that we can offer there and build upon together as a group. And then everybody who joins the program also gets some one-on-one time with me. So I will do a one-on-one coaching session with everybody as well, so that we can kind of get clear on, as Janine's poem sort of so beautifully offered, this invitation to go deeper and explore what's underneath there. Shine some light into the shadows to bring forth more light is what's inside of a coaching session, really. And so everybody gets to have all this beautiful time to bathe their souls and hopefully emerge with a bit more joy.
Incredible. It's going to be so magical.
I'm excited. Okay.
Okay, so they can learn more about you.
Yep. On my website,
Shannon.com.
ShannonClarkeCoaching.com, or on Instagram, Shannon Clarke Coaching. The link to the link to actually find more about the program and to register is there. But if you don't want to bother going to the website, just send me a message, or send me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll go from there. You don't have to go through the website if it's too much.
Beautiful. I'll put a link up on my website too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I need to write that you're
JanineHogg.ca. Sorry, I just interrupted you.
No, I interrupted you. JanineHogg.ca.
Yeah. Or on Instagram, but you know where I am. Spirit Nudger. Yeah. I haven't been sharing a lot on Instagram. I'm taking sort of a break, but.
Well, that's good. It's good to carve out some boundaries. Yeah. I really like to show up there because I like to share my stories.
I know. I love it. I don't watch many stories, but I watch yours.
Well, okay. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to either one of us. And if you don't know the answer, that you can connect them with me. And if they have questions about your role inside of this and your beautiful support that you're going to be providing and sharing space with us, then I can connect them with you. But yeah, this has been beautiful. This in itself has been beautiful.
I love you, my dear Shannon.